rosso per Zidane.
Another absolute screamer, and still Lamine! Genius from Lamine Yamal. Harry Kane!
One of the most exhilarating down-to-the-wire championship fights we have seen.
The world's greatest drivers gather.
Oh, right on the door handles.
What a spectacle!
Let's go, man! Kick on the way!
There is nothing like the Super Bowl.
Let's make history! This is sensational! The genius of modern boxing!
The following programme is recommended for those 16 and over, as it contains sporting violence, possible bad language, and flashing imagery.
Second floor.
Well, a very good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Sheffield, and a very warm welcome to everyone here, Memorial Hall, this afternoon for a very special kick-off launch press conference for a very special night of boxing heading your way, of course, October the 24th. Big-time boxing, World Championship boxing back here in the wonderful fighting steel city of Sheffield. Of course, the man down here to my right, Mr. Dalton Smith, in heroic fashion earlier this year, achieved his dreams and returns to his homeland to defend the WBC World Super Lightweight Championship for the very first time, following in the footsteps of so many wonderfully talented champions who have came before him. But at this level, nothing comes easy. And when you become a world champion, a target certainly forms on a fighter's back. And for Dalton Smith, who of course has big dreams, there is a long queue of fighters, the best fighters in the world now in the 140-pound weight division, waiting for their chance to strike. And next up in the career of Dalton Smith is this man here, down to my left, the two-time world champion, a formidable foe in the shape of Alberto Puello, who arrives in Sheffield and is here today to tell us exactly why he is the man to beat Dalton Smith and take the World Championship back home to the Dominican Republic. For Dalton, though, with victory on what promises to be an incredibly special night and a very special homecoming here in Sheffield. It is, of course, also one step closer to the dream, to bring you all with him to the home of his beloved Sheffield Wednesday, Hillsborough, potentially next summer. Just before we hear from the fighters and all the familiar faces up here on the table, I do just want to give a very quick and important shout out to our colleague, our friend and former IBF World Middleweight Champion, Mr. Darren Barker, who today embarks on his longest round challenge, of course, cycling from Edinburgh. He set off today from Bonnie, Scotland, down to the English coast. He'll then swim the English Channel, nice and easy, and then get back on the bike and cycle through France, through Spain to Gibraltar, and then swim the Strait of Gibraltar. Always did things the easy way, didn't he, Darren Barker? But shouting it from the rooftops and spreading such an important message for men's mental health, and doing it all, of course, in honour of the late, great Ricky Hatton. And we'll just give Darren Barker a round of applause in the room as we wish him all the very best of luck. Go well, Darren, mate. All behind you, keep your eyes on the longest round socials to remain updated on that one. Let's hear firstly from Frank Smith. Frank, you've been with Dalton Smith since the very beginning, the professional debut, and what an incredible journey it's been since then. English, British, outright, Commonwealth, European, and now WBC World Super Lightweight Champion. What a moment it is for him, an incredible homecoming moment for him in a very tough fight, which we'll talk about. But how proud are you of the journey, and how proud are you to deliver? Excuse me. I'm getting emotional, sorry. How proud are you to deliver this moment for Dalton Smith?
Getting very good at this, Jamie, even getting emotional like on cue and everything like that.
I'm a paid actor.
It's been an unbelievable journey. You know, Dalton Smith has done it from the start, taken every test, gone after every belt, and even when it came to winning the belt, went to his opponent's backyard, a fighter no one wanted to fight in Subriel Matias, and took the belt away in spectacular fashion. You know, the way he finished that fight at the Barclays Centre, obviously an amazing crowd came over from Sheffield, but really in Subriel's hometown, it felt like being over there. And what a win, and what a journey he's been on. And time again, taking every test that stood in front of him. Even with this test against Alberto Puello, you know, Steve Bunce was just saying to me, it would have been nice to get a nice, easy, you know, over-the-hill name for the first offence. But he's testing himself in his first fight back against Alberto Puello, obviously WBC mandatory, a proper fight. He's not looking beyond this, but I truly believe after this, unifications are there, the big night at Hillsborough's there, and I can't wait for what's ahead.
Well, just before we hear from the other fighters, a quick word from both sides, I think, of the main event. Firstly, to the main man, Dalton Smith. Dalton, welcome home. A massive moment for you, rested, repaired, minor injury setback, but ready to go. Just tell us all, tell Sheffield and everyone watching at home, exactly what this moment means to you and why does it make you smile?
Yeah, just to be sat here right now as a world champion feels special. You know, I remember, you know, doing, you know, the first time I headlined for the British. You know, I've done everything I said I was going to do. You know, go through all the belts and bring a world title back to Sheffield and have a big homecoming. And you know, this is what I've got now. You know, it's a tough test in front of me, but that's what brings the best out of me. And, you know, Sheffield, October the 24th, Sheffield's going to be loud. The atmosphere is going to be noisy, and it's going to be a special moment for me.
And a quick word as well from the challenger down here to my left, of course, two-time world champion Alberto Puello. We have our trusted translator down there, Kieran Simpson, in the front row as well. Notepad ready. Alberto, welcome. First fight here in the UK in front of Dalton Smith's fans. Promises to be a wonderful atmosphere, but how excited are you to be fighting in the UK for the first time and looking to become world champion once again? What does this mean?
Sí, en primer lugar, bienvenido, Alberto. Obviamente vas a estar aquí, es tu primera vez peleando aquí en Inglaterra. Vas a estar delante de todos los fanáticos de Dalton Smith. ¿Cuánta emoción tienes de estar aquí, primeramente por tu primera vez en el Reino Unido, pero también por tener la posibilidad de convertirte de nuevo en campeón del mundo?
Bueno, muy emocionado de estar acá, listo y preparado para dar un gran show y llevarme el título a casa, que es lo único que vengo a hacer acá, más que a darle un gran show para todos los fanáticos.
Well, firstly, I'm very excited to be here, to come into this country and to be able to put on a great show. But more than anything, it's to be able to take this title home once again, as well as putting on a great show for the fans.
Well, before we hear from the main event in much greater detail, we'll work our way up the table down there to Leo Atang. Leo back in action, 8-0 now, remarkably. Can't quite believe how quickly that record has stacked up. But for yourself, fresh off a great experience over in America, what did you take from that, and what was the best part of that learning experience for you?
Yeah, I think all in all it was a great experience, you know, getting over to the States. It's a different world over there, you know, boxing outside in the heat and stuff. More stuff I can add to my experience going into the future, but I enjoyed the performance and it was a good trip.
Frank, how pleased are you with the development of Leo Atang so far through those 8 fights?
Yeah, he's 8 fights in 12 months, and 2 of those months he had injuries as well. So he's been probably the most active fighter in British boxing. And it's shown, and the confidence he's got already. You forget he's 19 years old, and the journey he's going to go on. Was actually on holiday the other week, bumped into him in Ibiza, and did promise him that when he wins the world title, he gets a free trip to Ibiza and a new Rolex. So, yeah, he's on an amazing journey. When you think the stage he's at right now, it's a spectacular place to be. We've been on those journeys from day one with many fighters, and I believe he's going to go all the way to the top.
How motivating is that for you, Leo? Rolex aside, but of course the legacy as well, to one day be here putting on huge shows like Dalton is and defending world championships in the years to come.
I just said the Ibiza trip.
What happens in Ibiza stays in Ibiza, gentlemen.
No, you got your Rolex. But when I said to him about Rolex, he went, I didn't want a Rolex, I just wanted an Ibiza trip. So, you know, apparently Sonny's invited himself as well. So.
Oh, okay. What's your promise to these fans then, Leo, as always? What can we expect from you? And each time you get back in the ring, I believe this is another 6-rounder, but another step forward in your journey.
Yeah, we want knockouts. We're going to step up the levels again this year and just improve in each performance, even if there are little gaps in between. There's going to be big differences in the performance every time. Well,
great stuff. Look forward to seeing you, Leo Atang, back in action here in Sheffield. And there's also a cracking matchup between rising star Giorgio Vizioli, 23 years old, 11-0, takes the big step up, the first acid test on paper against Yorkshire's very own Mr. Maxi Hughes down here to my left, who has operated at the world level for many years now on his journey and is here to show Giorgio that experience will absolutely pay off. But Giorgio, for you, many believe, including Eddie Hearn and the man to your right, Frank Smith, that you're a real deal and a real future star of this sport. What does this fight with Maxi Hughes, do you believe, give you the opportunity to show everybody?
Yeah, I think it'll bring the best out of me. You know, Maxi's been in with, you know, boxed for 3 world title eliminators, I think. So, yeah, I think it'll bring the best out of me, bring my more style out, show my more counter-punching and stuff. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I was offered a few opponents, but, you know, I was first to say yes to Maxi. Wanted the hardest challenge. So, yeah, I want to show the world what I can do even more.
Is that why you liked it most? Because it was the hardest challenge available? What did you really like about this?
No, I just think more reward. I think this is past British. I think he's fringe European British level. So this is past British level, and I'm looking forward to showing my levels on that night, and I can't wait. And yeah, if I win this fight, you know, bigger fights are in the distance.
Frank, what do you like about this matchup? Look, you'll always say there comes a point in a young prospect's journey where they have to take the leap of faith. You put a lot of faith into this man, Giorgio Vizioli, but he talked about reward there. What do you like about the risk-reward of this fight?
Yeah, look, he was offered easier fights. You know, there was easier proposals there in front of him, but he wanted to take a proper test. And again, he's one of those fighters that's always wanted to do that. I think you're going to continue to see improvements from him, the levels he steps up. Maxi has been in there with some brilliant fighters over the years, and he's a huge step up from where Giorgio's been so far. But we believe in him, his team believe in him, and he believes in himself, and to go all the way to the top. So, you know, I think it's the best decision he's made. And you know, obviously he's got to get through Maxi Hughes. Maxi will believe he can come and show the experience on the night. But he comes through that. He sets up massive fights going into 2027 and moving very quickly.
Maxi, great to see you as always. Welcome back. Barnett looking better by the week, I must say. Fantastic. In terms of this fight, look, coming off short notice defeat earlier this year, they're talking about the risk versus the reward. Were you surprised when the call came to face Giorgio Vizioli?
Not really. I suppose, you know, looking at my career, taking that short notice, a lot of armchair fans and people thought I'm finished. You know, with where I am, my age in my career. But I always knew the phone were going to ring. People look at me and think, he's been at that level. He's been at you know, that sort of level. So we think maybe he's over ill. So you know, I've been around a while. You know, it's weird. I'm oldest on this table, but you know, people who I look up to in recent years is the likes of Kiko Martinez. He fought at a high level till the very end, and he got to decide when he were done. And that's how I feel about it. You know, boxing gives me and my family a great life, and I get to decide when I'm done. I still believe, you know, I've got what it takes. You know, we had a bit of a hiccup earlier this year. I stepped up in weight, realised I'm nowhere near big enough for that weight on short notice. No regrets in taking that. You know, I've reset, and I've still got that desire. You know, that's why I'm sat here now. You know, Giorgio, great fighter, is the young pup coming through. So, you know, his team are like, right, we think we're ready for Maxi. You know, it's my job now to say, you know, it's still my time. I'm still current, and I'm still enjoying my boxing, and you know, ready to put on a good performance.
What do you make of what you have seen of Giorgio through those 11 fights, and ultimately, what do you believe will be the difference between the two of you in the ring?
Like I say, it's experience. I think last I spoke to Giorgio, I think we were up there on that balcony when he boxed on the Sheffield Bill. I think it was this year. I think it was, or last year. Maybe took too many punches. But yeah, I've liked what I've seen so far. He's good southpaw, so you know, he's a decent enough lad. So you know, that aside, it's about me. It's about using my experience and doing what I need to do.
Do you like that energy, Giorgio? Do you want the best Maxi Hughes? And in your mind, why is this not a step too far too soon?
For me, like, I agree with what he said, but for us, our team hasn't thought that he's passed the hill at all. We've just been offered the fight, and we've taken it. So we're going to train, you know, fully prepared, and think he's still there, and he is still there. I still believe those last two fights. We're not even going to look at those last two fights because you know he only had 2 weeks' notice. So we're going to look at previous fights and see what we can do from there. But you know, I believe I can go all the way, so we've got to take these fights, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Early prediction?
Prediction? Nah, no predictions. We'll do it in the ring, of course.
Same for you, Maxi?
Yeah, obviously I believe I win. That's why I'm here. You know, I'm not at that point in my career. You know, I'm a winner. You know, despite failings in my last two fights, but I'm still here with a big desire.
Okay, well, brilliant fight. That one, the youth versus the experienced, Giorgio Vizioli versus Maxi Hughes. Back then, too, the main attraction up here on the stage. Dalton, speaking of challenges and experienced southpaw, you've often said that you like southpaws, you like fighting southpaws. Stylistically, tell us what sort of puzzle you believe is in front of you and what you feel awaits you on October the 24th.
Yeah, style-wise, you know, Alberto Puello is a great champion. You know, two-time world champion for a reason. But like I said, I've always liked that style. Southpaws, it'll be completely different from my last fight. But, you know, I'm expecting a high-level boxing fight in this one.
Why is it a style that you believe you can overcome from what you've watched with your dad and the team and watched Alberto?
You know, Alberto's someone we've probably studied for the last 18 months, you know, before the Matias fight when he was champion. So he's been on our radar for quite a while. You know, we've studied him quite a bit. So, you know, very familiar with the style, what he does well, what he doesn't do well. And, you know, that's for me on October the 24th to put that into action.
Alberto, back to you with Kieran again in the front row. How do you look back on your fight with Subriel Matias? What a fight it was as well. And what was the biggest learnings for you that night at the top level?
Sí, hablando un poco de la pelea que tuviste con Subriel Matías, ¿cuáles fueron los puntos de aprendizaje que tuviste de esa noche y los recuerdos que tienes de esa pelea?
Bueno, el único recuerdo que tengo de esa pelea es que nunca se debe abandonar un plan de pelea. Pienso que la pelea no fue tan clara a mi favor porque jugué a su juego. Si hubiese seguido mi plan de pelea de un principio, otra historia hubiese sido.
So the only thing I think about when I look back on that fight is that you should never abandon your fight plan. I feel like the reason why I didn't get a clear victory is because I fell into his trap, into his game. So I feel like if I'd have continued on with the plan that I had, my fight plan, it would have been a completely whole other story.
And what did you make of Dalton Smith's fight with Subriel Matias, and what do you believe he showed the world that night as well?
¿Y qué opinaste de la actuación de tu oponente Dalton Smith contra Subriel Matias y lo que demostró esta noche en su victoria frente a Subriel?
Bueno, como a todos, pienso que no solo a mí me sorprendió que Dalton Smith haya noqueado a Subriel Matias, sin quitarle que es un boxeador muy bueno, claro, pero es algo que me sorprendió y merecida victoria.
I think, like everybody, you know, I was very surprised that Dalton Smith could go and knock out Subriel Matias. You know, I don't want to take anything away from Dalton Smith as a fighter, but you know, I think it was a big surprise that he was able to knock Subriel out.
What do you make of Dalton Smith as a fighter, as a champion? Strengths and weaknesses. What do you believe you're up against?
¿Qué opinas de Dalton Smith como boxeador, como campeón? ¿Cuáles son tus puntos fuertes, sus debilidades que puedes ver en él?
Es un boxeador muy bueno, la verdad que tiene muy pocos puntos débiles, pero para mí no hay nada más satisfactorio que la pelea sea acá, en su lugar, y quitarle el título en su propia casa no es algo que va a ser muy satisfactorio para mí y muy humillante para él.
So there's very few things I can say about weaknesses. I don't see many weaknesses in him. But what I will say, it would be hugely satisfying to come here to his home and to rip the belt away from him. You know, it would be really satisfying for me and a humiliation for him.
What do you make of the energy, Dalton? I guess it's part and parcel when you reach this level. As I said in the intro, no easy fights when you become a world champion.
Of course, this is elite boxing. You know, this is high-end, pound for pound, you know, with the best in the world. You know, he's former two-time world champion. I've got a big target on my back. He wants to do what I did to Matias. But believe me, that's not going to happen. You know, me fighting in my hometown with the support behind me as a world champion, you know, it gives me that extra fire. You know, especially when I've worked hard for something since a little boy and I've got it now, there's a lot more to keep and there's a lot more work I'm willing to put in for that.
Despite what happened in the ring and with certain results, do you anticipate a harder challenge against Alberto Puello in comparison to what you had against Matias? How do you compare the two? Of course, the styles are very different.
Completely two different styles. You know, on paper, you look, Matias is a much harder fight. You know, physical fight. I think this will be, you'll see a lot more boxing skill in this one. But to be honest, like, styles make fights. It's a completely different fight. But for me, this is a style I've always loved fighting, especially in the amateurs. You know, a southpaw, I always do well against them. I like that style. And, you know, I've proven I'm a world champion now. And I want to continue to do that.
How's the mentality changed for you? It's the question we always ask fighters. Look, when you have this dream since you're a young boy to become world champion, now you are world champion. Where do you believe that ceiling has moved to now for Dalton Smith?
You know, it's always the same. I've always believed I'd be a world champion. You know, so the mentality is the same. But throughout your career, there'll always be questions. Can Dalton beat this guy? Can he beat that guy? And every time I've stepped through the ropes, I've proved everybody wrong. And I'll do that on October the 24th, and you know, the title will be staying in Sheffield.
And he's talking about ripping the belt. It's going to be humiliation for Dalton Smith here in Sheffield. Do you have a feeling, though, Dalton, within yourself, the way you feel, the confidence that you just won't be denied in your home city come October?
Of course, you know, words are words. You know, as soon as we're between those ropes and the bell goes, it's just me and him, and we're fighting for that belt. You know, I'm fighting. I'm going to make sure that stays in Sheffield. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to my family, and you know, he'll have to kill me in the ring to take it away from me. So we love the energy what comes, and that's going to create an entertaining fight.
An absolute focus, of course, but the questions are always going to be there. Many seeing this as the final hurdle to the ultimate dream that was for you to fight at Hillsborough as well. Is that also fuel to the fire of the motivation?
It's always fuel every time I fight. You know, it's to achieve something new, to make history in Sheffield. But you don't overlook any fight. One fight at a time, and then once that hand's raised on October the 24th, we'll see what's next. But everybody knows Hillsborough's the cherry on the top for me.
Alberto, how strong is that motivation for you, as you say, to take that belt home, but just deep down in your own heart to become world champion once again?
Sí, ¿y cuánta motivación tienes, no solamente de ganar esta pelea, pero de otra vez convertirte en campeón del mundo.
Muy motivado, muy motivado, ya que estaría pasando a la historia del boxeo dominicano. Vengo a darle el todo por el todo y a recuperar ese título mundial y a darle un gran show a todo el público que estará presente esa noche.
Yes, it would be, I'm hugely motivated to go and win that, given that it would make history in the Dominican Republic. I'm so motivated to get that belt, that WBC belt, back once again, and also to put on a great show for those fans.
And he doesn't know how to lose in a professional boxing ring. Why is Alberto Puello the man to beat Dalton Smith?
Y no ha sabido lo que es la derrota en su carrera boxística, porque va a ser Alberto Puello la persona para hacerle sentir esa derrota.
Bueno, sabe, esto es un deporte y me siento con la capacidad física, mental y deportivamente de propinarle su primera derrota a Dalton Smith. Es un boxeador muy bueno, pero que no descarte la derrota en esta próxima pelea.
I feel like this is a sports competition we go into it. I feel like I'm mentally, physically, and prepared as an athlete to go into this. So don't discount Dalton Smith tasting his first defeat in this fight.
Ultimately, Dalton, how do you see yourself beating Alberto Puello and keeping your belt? We're a fair distance away from fight night. It's a question you'll be asked many times, but deep down, what do you see being the difference?
I'm just going to punch him more times than he punches me. You know what I mean? There's nothing, he's nothing more in boxing. You've just got to punch them more times than they punch you, and the scorecards, whether it's inside the distance or just the points, my hand will be raised.
And final word, Kieran, to Alberto. Ultimately, what is his vision of the fight? How does he see it unfolding? And ultimately, how does he see himself beating Dalton Smith?
Sí, por último, ¿cuál es cuando visualizas la pelea? ¿Cómo crees que se va a desenvolver y cómo visualizas ganándole al Dalton Smith?
Bueno, no voy a dar muchos detalles, pero es un secreto. Pienso que no voy a fallar ningún golpe en la cabeza tan grande que tiene Dalton Smith.
I'm not going to go too much into the fight plan because that's obviously a secret, but I don't think I'll be able to miss with the size of Dalton Smith's head come fight night.
I'm just going to give you one final opportunity, Dalton, to respond to that. Final word, I guess, to respond to that one.
Listen, you can't hit what you can't see. So yeah, it was. You are. That's what I mean. But I mean, he'll have a shock. He'll have a shock on October the 24th. But it's good that he's got the energy, and he'll see on fight night.
And a final message to everyone coming out in Sheffield, as we say at the start, going to be a very special, incredible night for you, Dalton.
It's going to be a big night. It's going to be, the atmosphere is going to be unbelievable, and tune in. It's going to be a special night for Sheffield.
Okay, well, what a fight! October the 24th from Sheffield Arena, live on DAZN. Dalton Smith defends the World WBC Super Lightweight Championship for the first time against two-time world champion Alberto Puello.